So welcome, Matt. We so appreciate your consistent leadership and solidarity. And as always at SETC, we begin all things by acknowledging and giving thanks to our Creator. We acknowledge the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Matt, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me here today, Victor. It's great to be chatting with you and excited about the conversation we'll have today. My name is Matt Mandrusiak. I am currently the Manager of Philanthropy with the Edmonton Community Foundation. I've been in this role, at least the managerial role, for about the last 7 months, but I've been with the Community Foundation since 2015. The work that we do mostly supports the charitable sector in the greater Edmonton area, but we work with donors to create permanent endowment funds to support the causes and passions that mean the most to them, both in their lifetime and after the fact. We work really closely with them to be able to establish something that will make sure that the community that we live, work, and play in will be thriving and vibrant for generations to come. So it's been a great organization to be a part of. I've been in the philanthropic sector, mostly in fund development for the last 16 years, and cannot say a bad word about the work that we do here at ECF. It's really exciting to be a part of, and very happy to get to share a little bit about it today.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for your leadership and your candor, and obviously your decades of work in the space. So it's a perfect segue to my next question. Right now, what's inspiring you in your work? What has you curious, or what's keeping you up at nights?
Thankfully, not a lot keeps me up at night. There are the odd time, but not too often. But to get to the inspiration question, I was thinking a little bit about this earlier today, and I really feel like the thing that inspires me the most currently in my role is the people that we get to work with. Everybody comes to the Community Foundation for a different reason. The stories we get to hear on a daily basis are completely different one to the next. Every family, every individual, every business that we work with has a reason that they want to get involved with the work that we do. And to hear what makes them tick or why they support the causes that they do in the community is really the best part of the job that I get to do and a few of my colleagues get to share in, because you really are helping to create philanthropic legacies and philanthropic dreams. And the way that we're able to do that and work with somebody and create something that is tailor-made to what their vision is really the best part about going to work every day. So everybody who comes to us, no matter what their end goal is, at the end of the day, they want to help. They want to do good. It's nice that they're able to find a venue like ours or a vehicle like ours, that they can find a partner that's willing or able to set something up in their lifetime that they can see happen in the community, and then have that peace of mind of knowing that when they are no longer with us, or when none of us are around the table anymore, that fund, the supports that they have set up, will continue to be managed and will be there for the long term, and nothing can change that. So those are really the biggest inspirations that I have. But I'm also very fortunate to work with a team of very community-minded people who have a lot of connection to community, a big-time passion for our city, and really our nation, and really want to create change through the work that we do. So those are certainly the inspirations that keep me coming back.
That's beautiful. You're building legacies, and there's nothing more important. There's a Malawi proverb that one of my wife was watching a lecture recently, and there's a proverb that says the only thing more precious than your children is your children's children. So building legacy is so important. So thank you for that. I appreciate your leadership. So my next question, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work? And what are some of the ways you and your colleagues are working to overcome some of these challenges?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it's something that we've faced for quite some time. Our biggest barrier, at least, or our biggest challenge, we find, at least in Edmonton, I'm sure this is probably similar for community foundations across the country, but I'm not going to speak for them. But based on my experience, there's not a lot of awareness about the work that we do within our community. Even though we're a relatively large organization, we're the largest non-governmental funder of the charitable sector in the capital region in Alberta, which is a pretty big boon for us. Um, we've only been in operation since 1989, but even in what I think is a relatively short amount of time, we've cumulatively granted over $300 million into the community. And we've really created something that's going to be around and last for the long term. And barely anybody knows that we exist. The people who work with us are donors. They get it. They understand it. The charities that we support, they get it. But more often than not, when I'm talking to somebody who is just being introduced to the concept of the community foundation, they either think we're a part of the city of Edmonton, or more times I get a question of how big was your 50-50 last night, because they think we're part of the Edmonton Oilers Community Foundation. So that has always been a massive barrier for us. It's getting better. Certainly in my years with the foundation, we've made some big strides, but there is so much opportunity there for us. If we can continue to build on the work that we're doing and get people engaged with us, the sky's the limit, really. But that has always been a super big challenge for us. The other problem, or I wouldn't say problem, but the other barrier or challenge that we have, Edmonton's a very diverse city, extremely diverse city. And I think part of our focus moving forward is really trying to be representative of our city makeup, the demographics within the city. And that hasn't been a strength of ours. We understand that. We get that that's a function of the endowment model. But that is definitely something that a challenge that we are excited to take on and see how we can serve our population better than we have maybe up to this point.
Incredible, incredible. Yeah, I can only imagine the frustration, but definitely I think that a lot of foundations across the country have that deep work to do in terms of community engagements and finding ways and means to amplify their remarkable work. Because $300 million in terms of capital deployments is absolutely remarkable. I can't even imagine the level of impact. So definitely, any way that we can support in terms of amplifying the work and the message, we're here to support. So I
I
appreciate your
appreciate
leadership
that.
and your candor. So my next question: do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work?
Yeah, there's a few. We've seen some leadership changes here over the last 18 months, almost 2 years now. New CEO has come in. Our outgoing CEO was brilliant, grew the foundation to heights that I don't think anybody could have imagined when he took over. As he stepped away, we brought in a new vision and a new leader. And she really started to push the status quo almost immediately, which was great. I think the foundation that we've built has done a really solid job of being able to, we do what we do very well. But that doesn't mean that all we can do is simply what we've done in the past. And she's really brought the staff together, the board together, the leaders of the organization together, the community together. She's really engaged community from our donors, from the organizations that we work with, volunteers, just random community members as well, to see how we can better serve our community. And there's been several strategic priorities that have been developed over the last several months. A couple of them I can speak to at least the team that I'm involved with. One of those priorities is very much what I touched on in one of my previous answers, is building that donor base to be more representative of our community. And in order for us to do that, we need to know that we're not the experts. We don't have all the answers. It's going to take a lot of community consultation, a lot of engagement. The demographics in Edmonton it's a wide variety. It's a huge spectrum. We're not going to capture everybody. We know that. But when I speak about trying to be more encompassing of our population, I'm not just simply meaning on, background or anything like that. Age definitely comes into it. When we look at what endowment means, it comes with some stigmas. There's no doubt about that. When people hear that word, it's a very old school approach. Most people think that you have to be a very wealthy philanthropist to consider creating an endowment fund. We know that at the Community Foundation, that's not the case. We try and make it accessible. A working endowment fund for us in Edmonton starts at $10,000. Someone could build to that threshold over a period of 10 years, something that I have done personally with my fund. So we're trying to make it a little bit more accessible for everybody. But at the same time, I know that somebody who is, a millennial, younger than I am, thinking about their legacy right now probably isn't going to be top of mind for them. So how do we start to establish opportunities for people to see the Community Foundation as a resource to their philanthropy, as opposed to a barrier to their philanthropy? So those are really some of the big key focuses that our group is putting together and working towards. And I think we've got some structure in place. There's some plans. We've rolled out some options very slowly. We're starting to see some momentum there. But I think as we continue to go through these layers of the plan that we've put in place, and we continue to engage community over the next several years, we'll start to see the Community Foundation, or at least I hope we'll start to see the Community Foundation in a very different light, that we can be accessible for everybody, no matter where they're at in their philanthropic journey. So I think that's one of the main key focuses, amongst others, but that's one of the biggest ones that we're really looking forward to tackling here over the next little bit.
Incredible. Thank you. I appreciate your leadership. So my next question, how do you feel about the future of philanthropy in Canada? Are you pessimistic? Are you optimistic? Are you hopeful?
I call me an eternal optimist. I'm always hopeful. I get that there's challenges no matter what. We here in Alberta, we live in a very resource-driven economy. So we may see some of the ups and downs more than other parts of the country. But what I can say, at least from an Edmonton perspective, is that there is a tremendous amount of generosity here in our community. Seeing how our donors and many others, not just Community Foundation donors, but just people who care about community, how they really stepped up through the turmoil of COVID to be able to support some of the organizations that were really struggling, that were potentially threatening to close their doors because of some of the shifts that were happening, especially early in the pandemic. I think those are signs that leave me optimistic about what the future may hold. I think that there is a whole new generation of philanthropists that are being developed right now that we're not necessarily going to see the perhaps monetary impact from in the next 2-3 years. But I think you're seeing a younger group starting to get more involved in volunteering their time or seeing how they can create impact in their communities now through different ways and means, which I hope will lead to, as they continue to grow and as they get older and their careers change and their lives change and all that, will span sort of that next generation of philanthropists. I also feel like I know that there's going to be a pretty big generational wealth shift here in the next little bit, which is already taking place. But for organizations like ours who have really engaged families in philanthropy, I think there's an opportunity as we start to see some of that wealth changing hands from generation to generation, that those folks who have involved their children or the second or third generations in some of the decisions that they've made from a philanthropic standpoint will really help to shift some of those dollars back into the community. So there's some optimism around that. Whether I'm seeing things through rose-tinted glasses, we'll see. But I do think that there is a general spirit of community caring, even when it may not seem like it some days. That leaves me very optimistic about what the future of philanthropy in Canada might look like.
Indeed. Well, listen, pass those rose glasses around because we need more optimism in this world for sure. So I give thanks. So my second last question, what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
That's a really good question. It's almost hard for me to put a succinct answer in place. One of the things that we've done since we've been established is really plan for the future. So even if, I know it wouldn't happen, but even if we didn't see another dollar come in the door, just based on the way that we manage our funds and the way that they're invested, we know that we're going to be around for a while. But that doesn't mean success to us, I don't think, at least in my point of view. Just because we've got a real framework in place that will allow us to continue long into the future, I think our organization is not just simply satisfied with resting on our laurels. And it's not just seeing how many more additional endowment funds we can build or anything like that. It's really trying to shape what we as an organization can do for the community as a whole. And that means, I think success will look like how we can engage our city better, how we can create better resources for people who want to get involved in philanthropy, and whether that's with the community foundation or elsewhere. We want to be looked on as an organization that can be top of mind no matter what conversation comes about. And I really think that one of the big shifts, or at least one of the big successes that I feel like our organization is working towards, is being seen as someone who's not necessarily just the background player, the organization that's funding some of the work that's happening out in our community while others are doing it. I think our organization really wants to be seen as one of the innovators and change makers at some point here in the near future, so that we are really taking on sort of those building block first steps, as opposed to jumping on when somebody has already done it and just providing dollars to it. So there's a couple different answers I could go with here, but I really think that success for our organization is going to be seen how we can evolve the work that we're doing to best meet the needs of the community at any given time.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. I appreciate your leadership. So my last question, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and our viewers?
Yeah, I think if I have any call to action, I mean, it's get involved in community in any way possible. There's so many great organizations out there, and they're all doing fantastic work, but that work doesn't happen unless people are behind it. And again, that doesn't mean just simply monetary contributions. There are several ways to get involved in community, to make a difference, to be a part of change. Go and, I'm sure everybody who may be listening to this or watching, they have some interests out there. And if they're not already involved with some of those organizations that are delivering some of those opportunities, feel free to just go out and research, take a look, see what's happening in your community. It doesn't take much to make a big difference. So I guess that's my biggest call to action. But from a self-serving standpoint, also for people in communities, there's 200-ish community foundations across the country. I'm sure that there are several people that have no idea what their local community foundation does. I would say take a look at that too, because typically the community foundation, no matter what city, what area you're living in, very much has their hands involved in a lot of the projects and initiatives that are happening in your community. And it's never a bad thing to just find out what your local community foundation is doing. And I will say too, even though I talked a little bit about quite a bit about endowment, just because that's one of our main focuses in Edmonton doesn't mean that that's the same across the country. Every community foundation is different, and it's always exciting, even from my perspective, to learn what other foundations are doing. So that's pretty much my call to action, is just get involved in any way that you feel is important to you.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Matt, for your humility, your authenticity, and your clear leadership. And as always at SETC, we close the way we began, by giving thanks and acknowledging our creator, by giving thanks and acknowledging the original stewards, the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, Matt, for all that you do for so many.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.